Hello and welcome to Teachers for Interactive Language Learning. If you'd like to join this discussion, you can click on the link here below where you'll be prompted to be able to join the live Hangout if you wish. We'll get started here in just a few minutes as others tend to roll in. I'm going to do a screen share here, and this is the Google Plus community. Again, this is where you can join the live Hangout if you wish. By clicking on the link at the bottom of your screen, this should take you to this Hangout, or this community rather, and here you can access the Hangout. So again, we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and mute my mic, but go ahead and feel free to join the Hangout. The topic of today, promoting big ideas in the English language classroom. So this will be the topic for today, and I've shared an article in the chat once you have joined the Hangout, but basically it's this article here. It's an ASCD Express article entitled Teaching History, Not Just Preparing for Jeopardy! So this is the article, and I'd like to talk about this idea, this article, within the context of the English language classroom. If you do wish to join this discussion, you may do so by clicking on the link here found at the bottom. I'll do a screen share and also show you where you can access the same link. We have a Google Plus community entitled Teachers for Interactive Language Learning, and that can be found here. And from here you have an option of joining this Hangout if you wish. Today we're going to talk about promoting big ideas in the English language classroom. What I'd like to do is share with you an article that I came across this morning from ASCD Express titled Teaching History, Not Just Preparing for Jeopardy! And I chose this article because I thought that it touched on a few key issues that I know that I reflect on quite a bit when it comes to teaching students learn English as an additional language. This particular article begins by asking the question, do we need to know dates for the test? And the basic problem that they pose here is that typically we focus on individual facts and dates, and not so much enduring understandings, which ultimately require higher order of thinking skills. And in the English language classroom, we might equate this to thinking in terms of teaching grammar only or vocabulary, instead of perhaps looking at different big idea concepts such as enduring understandings, where students are required to use higher order thinking, where they might also benefit in the future, so that they actually learn something, whether it's content or some other critical thinking experience that would put them at an advantage in the future. So I'd like to run through a few key points that I found interesting from this article, and then kind of shift this into the context of the English language classroom. Now, before we get started, this is basically coming from Wiggins and McTighe. They look at the 6 facets of understanding, which basically they claim that students must be able to explain, interpret, apply. They should have perspective and empathy and self-knowledge. So they choose those 6 performance verbs and then basically support the idea that all performance verbs fall under those 6 facets. And they provide an alternative, I think, to the Bloom's taxonomy, which is hierarchical, and look at more of an understanding that implements as many of these facets as possible. So whenever you're designing a unit, you're looking at how you can support these understandings, or as many of these 6 facets as possible within the unit. Again, trying to get away from the idea of focusing only on individual facts and ideas. The author here states that history teachers tend to be very much tied to their content. And I would support and agree with the idea here in the English language classroom that perhaps in some contexts we may focus too much on grammar, vocabulary, again, not so much on bigger ideas related to content that, again, might serve the English language learner in the future. So the author states here that by focusing on big ideas instead of the small details and facts, students develop a deeper understanding of the content and the analytical skills necessary to analyze historical and current events for themselves. So in TESOL, how do we focus on big ideas? How might we implement these big ideas that perhaps aren't specifically stated in the curriculum or the syllabus? Now, the author mentions here that when looking and evaluating the curriculum, it's very common to look at some of the usually behavioral objectives that are stated, and most of the time those objectives are in the form of facts, and they list some examples here from the perspective of a history class, stating that some of these objectives might be listed as the events leading to the revolution, the major battles and outcomes, key people, and many other details. So basically the author is supporting this idea that the objectives typically are very much specific or limited to individual details. After further reflection, the author goes on by saying that she realizes that her motivation in teaching these simply important facts was that it was expected that students know these ideas, but unfortunately using this approach meant that these small details had become the focus of the unit at the expense of the big ideas. And this really is the central problem, as I see it, is looking at these individual behavioral objectives and not going beyond the objectives and looking at, again, these enduring understandings or big ideas that I think bring a more dynamic class to the students and allow the students really to exercise higher thinking and being able to interact with others to a greater degree. The author goes on here, she talks about refocusing on the big ideas. She states the big idea or enduring understanding for the revolution became conflict is the result of a perceived need for political, economic, and social change by a population. By repeating this enduring understanding throughout the year, students learn to look at both past and present conflicts through this lens. Now, the couple of important things here that she's mentioning, one is that she's implying that the enduring understandings are set at the beginning of the course in this case. And this enduring understanding, I would argue, then would be one central understanding that would take the students throughout the entire course. But I think you can also look at understandings in terms of units, maybe breaking them down into more specific understandings. But the key idea here is that it's established at the beginning of the semester and that it's being repeated throughout the semester so the students really know what the desired results are for the course, that they understand where they're going from the beginning. And Wiggins and McTighe refers to this as a backward design, that you're thinking really of the assessments and the goals first, and that you're assessing that the students understand what types of assessments will be implemented as they work towards this enduring understanding. And when I think of enduring understanding, I think in terms of really gaining understandings that allows you to do something else, kind of a purposeful type of learning environment where this understanding enables the learner to be able to do something else. Now, the author concludes here that students will walk away from the unit, course, or program of study with a true understanding of the big ideas and the deeper understandings of the content. Again, the goal here is that by working and focusing on the understandings, that the details will fall in place. The idea here is that the details and the facts obviously need to be a part of the understanding. So obviously they need to know the details to be able to express and show evidence that they understand certain concepts. So again, this is an article that I thought was interesting, especially in terms of the English language classroom. I'm going to go ahead and pause here and go back to the Hangouts. And again, if you would like to join this conversation, you can feel free to join by clicking on the link here at the bottom of your screen. And again, this will take you to the Google Plus Hangout that I showed you just a few minutes ago. But feel free to also check out the recording as this is being uploaded to YouTube. But I wanted to throw this out as an example and ask basically the key question here is, how can we as language educators promote big ideas when teaching English to students of other languages? How can we design the assessments in such a way that students need to use skill sets that they have to really promote these enduring understandings to a degree that we feel puts them at a greater advantage in the future? And again, thinking in terms, less in terms of the actual grammar that they use in vocabulary, but actually giving them an experience where they have to use the grammar and vocabulary to really achieve other things that are of interest. And again, this will be very much contextually based, so based on the goals of the course, even if it's a general English class, trying to find different areas of interest for the English language learner. If they're college students, what they're majoring in perhaps. If they're professionals, what are they, how are they working, what types of contexts do they find themselves in, and then really trying to basically leverage English and use English to achieve things that they can relate to. Learning needs to be relevant and meaningful, and I think our goal here is to find ways to promote big ideas in such a way that the learning experience is in fact relevant and meaningful. So thanks for listening. I think we'll go ahead and conclude there. Again, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. Feel free to leave comments at the bottom of the video expressing your thoughts and opinions. Also, feel free to join the Google Plus community, which can be found here. If you do a search, Teachers for Interactive Language Learning, you'll find the community here, and feel free to join and take part in the discussions, whether those discussions are posts here in the threads or participating in the live hangouts that we periodically have throughout them each month. Thanks for listening, and we'll go ahead and conclude there. Bye for now, and we'll see you next time.
Please don't box me in. Don't tell me who I